Hi, it's that fantasy chick back again with another stream. It's another week. We're going to be talking about Loki. And I don't know if you saw my community post, but Upload did not release all of their episodes all at once. So I didn't get my free trial just yet. I'm going to wait until more episodes. They're releasing them two at a time for some reason. So two, four, six, eight. There's 8 episodes this season. So I'm gonna wait until at least 6 are out before I get my free trial, and then because I prefer to binge watch it. I can watch it once one season all in one night. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till I can binge watch it to before I start watching it. So that's going to be more in November rather than this month. Um, but before we get to Loki, I have an article about James Bond and his future, or the determination thereof. Okay. James Bond's producers are still figuring out his future. The erratic real world events of the mid 2020s affect the immediate next version of James Bond and how to handle him. Daniel Craig didn't have the longest run of James Bond movies, but he did have one of the most eventful. 2007's Casino Royale gave the series a shot in the arm that both made it matter more in the eye of the mainstream public and greatly boosted his profile. As much as people have spent the years since 2021's No Time to Die trying to figure out who could or should be the next 007 agent, the series producers are still just trying to figure out what the next James Bond even is. Talking to The Guardian, producer Barbara Broccoli explained the franchise's executives are still trying to nail down what to do with him for the next set of movies. Part of the issue is trying to have Bond reflect how the world has changed in the near 20 years since Craig first took the role. His Bond focused on what a 21st century hero would look like, something she felt the world was ready for at the time. The aim for the new iteration is to follow suit, but it isn't entirely easy to zero in on right down. I go back to GoldenEye when everyone was saying the Cold War is over, the wall is over, Bond is dead, no need for Bond. The whole world's at peace, and now there's no villains. And boy, was that wrong, Broccoli recalled. I think these movies reflect the time they are in, and there's a big, big road ahead reinventing it for the next chapter, and we haven't even begun with that. Even with that uncertainty, one area that Bond for sure won't be going to is the realm of television. There have been plenty of movies that gotten TV spin-offs in the last decade, but Broccoli has no real plans to do that with their character. Other than the 007 Road to a Million reality show, never heard of that. Must be a British thing. The focus will remain solely on theatrical movies. When we get going on a Bond movie, it takes our full attention for 3 or 4 years, she explained. So that's our focus. We make the films for the big theatrical screen, and everything about the Bond movies is for audiences to see around the world on that format. So we've not wanted to do television. The reality show is just a nice, fun thing to do in the meantime, and is intended to tide fans over for Bond 26 and 27, whenever those may be. Hmm. I really have never heard of this TV show. Henry Cavill, no, no. I wasn't feeling him as Superman, and I will not feel him as Bond. Okay, confession. I have not seen a single Daniel Craig James Bond movie, and that's because I'm stubborn and I didn't like him as James Bond. I didn't like him as James Bond. I didn't think he would be a good James Bond, so I didn't watch any of his movies. So, so the 2000s have missed me. Basically, James Bond has missed me. So yeah, I haven't watched it since. Yeah. I'm sure you think so. I don't like him as James Bond. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan. And I've been waiting for the next Bond since he became Bond. So um I really don't need them to make Henry Cavill or Cavill or whatever his name is, James Bond, because then I'll be missing out on another 10 or 15 years of James Bond. I like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. My favorite Bond is Timothy Dalton, even though he only got two or maybe three chances. I think he might have only gotten two or three. He got very few chances to be Bond, but Timothy Dalton is my favorite, followed by um well, yeah, Pierce Brosnan, then Roger Moore. And I haven't seen as many. I haven't seen as many. What's the Scottish man's name? Why can't I ever remember that fool's name? I haven't seen as many as the original James Bond movies. One day I'm gonna sit down and watch all of his movies. I think I've only seen maybe one or two movies with him in it. But yeah, I don't know why I can never remember his name. And it's not like he's not some some fly by night actor. Why can't I remember his name? Yeah, I've seen Roger Moore, I've seen Timothy Dalton, I've seen Pierce Brosnan, and I've seen maybe one or two of the original guy. What's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Lord. Okay, I can't do this. We're gonna we're just gonna put it in James Bond. His name's gonna come up. Why? Oh, it's not coming up. Let's put in movie I know he's in. No, that's Roger Moore. Okay. Okay, never say never again. Sean Connery. There we go. Okay. Why I can never remember Sean Connery's name. Don't ask me. Sean Connery. But I've seen one or two of Sean Connery. So one or two of Sean Connery's, Roger Moore's, Timothy Dalton's, and Pierce Brosnan. But never watched Daniel Craig because I just didn't think he was. I didn't like him as James Bond. So I have not watched a single Daniel Craig James Bond movie, and I probably never will. But um, uh, but I'm looking forward to the next one. I wasn't on the Idris train as much as everybody else was, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it as much as I hated Daniel Craig. So I would have watched Idris Elba. I would have watched him. But he pretty much walked away. I think he walked away because they weren't willing to give him the money that he deserved. And I have my suspicions on why they wouldn't give him his money. But because I think they were really banking on him being the next one. And now that he walked away, they're like, what do we do now? What do you do now? What other British person who's hot right now could you do? I'll do a poll. I'll put up a poll on the community tab. I'll think up some British people. Um, I'm not even going to put Henry Cavill as a choice. But I'll find a list of some people that they've names that they've been floating around because there's always names that they've been floating around and put up a poll and see who who people will want to see as the next James Bond. But yeah, Henry Cavill ain't even going on that list. No. All right, next. Loki. So Loki. Um Miss Minutes. Uh Miss Trifling Heifer, I should say. She was the jealous trifling heifer. She saw them getting close. Her face got all screwed up and she started looking all sad. And I was like, this heifer is jealous. This cartoon clock is jealous. I'm like, baby, you a cartoon clock. What you gonna do? There is absolutely nothing you can do as a cartoon clock. And yet she still convinced him to throw her overboard. My goodness. But they when I saw that they spent this episode in Chicago. Saw Chicago. First they went to Chicago 1868, I think it was. So had it looking all run down. I was like, that is not Chicago. Then they went right back in 1893, and then it was the World Fair, and everything was built up. And I can tell you for a fact that if they talking about if they went to back to the same area, it wouldn't have been Chicago because Chicago right on the lake. Come on, it would not have been that toe down. Because that's where the World Fair was. The World Fair was right on the lake. But whatever. Miss Minutes has went full bitter side chick, and I love it. she she was a trip. She was a trip. She was like, why didn't you give me a body? He was like, because it wasn't me. That wasn't me, you dumb heifer. It was somebody else. Oh my goodness. This minute's asking the tough questions like why you ain't made me a body yet. Yes. And it's like, I could be your girl. Putting her face on the mannequin. Like, girl, going somewhere. I'm like, we already had that storyline on what you call it, Shield, Agents of Shield, the life model decoys, LMDs. What that's what they called them, the life model decoys, right? Them things weren't I couldn't stand them life model decoys. But and they were dangerous too. Any type of AI robot in the Marvel world turns out to be dangerous, except for Vision. Vision's the only one that ain't dangerous. Every other AI robot has been dangerous, and they just need to just stay away from them. Just stay away from them, and Miss Minutes included. So they go to the World Fair, and we see Jonathan Majors doing his thing on the stage with his Frederick, what's his face? His Frederick Douglass hair going on, and his time, his what do they call it? A time, basically the same thing that they have back in the TVA that they need him to fix. I can't remember what he called it. It called it a time, not a time loop, but a time. I forget what it's called. But anyway, but that one was fake because I was wondering why he was letting these random white men just bid on his invention. Like if you know you know what you can do with this invention, why would you give it up when you know you can make so much more money than you can get on a one-time payment? But of course, because he knew that beyond the the presentation, it was not going to work. So he took the money and run. And of course, here comes Sophie. It's like, didn't you learn when you killed the last one that killing him caused confusion, chaos and confusion? But I guess she didn't care. She was like, I'm going to kill all the variants. She is going to get a nasty surprise when she comes up against the Kang, because right now she's dealing with the He Who Remains, and they meek and they mild, and she can just put a knife through them. But if she comes up against the Kang gonna knock her the hell out. she ain't gonna be able to put a knife in him. Ah, temporal loom. That's what it was. I was about to call it a time loop. Temporal loom. Yeah, he took $1,000 way too quick. everybody who takes the time to read the TVA guidebook calls Ouroboros. This, Ouroboros becomes this godlike figure to them. Like, oh my goodness, you wrote this book. Can you sign this book for me? Like he becomes this great figure in the lives of everyone who takes the time to read the book cover to cover. So it must be a great book for tech geeks. But yeah. Saying, oh, like seeing Loki using his magic. Um Yes, so because like he was trying to get to the guy before Renslayer took him out the room, and the guy was in his way, and I was like, dude, just use your magic. And so he just did it. He used his magic, and he was like, oh, take this outside, bloop, and he disappeared outside in a cage. But uh but the funny thing was when uh before Sophie appeared and they was in a standoff with Renslayer, and he was just standing there and his hands was just glowing green, like he was just ready to use his magic at a drop of a hat. And I'm like, dude, you could blast Renslayer faster than she could use that thing on him. Blast her across the room. I was waiting for him to blast her, but of course Sophie came in and blasted him, proving my point. That's what he could have done. Yeah, yes. But I can tell you one thing, there's a reason why those Marvel workers wanted a union. They probably been working round the clock to make it look that good. That's a lot of work for a little pay. So just because the budget was cut doesn't they cut the budget, they probably cut their budget and still making them work just as hard as they worked before, which is kind of why they wanted that union. But I'm not gonna say that's why, because I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know that's what's going on. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's what's going on. But yeah. Uh and then finally we see Sophie send Renslayer and by way of her Miss Minutes back to the end of time with the original He Who Remains, who's now decomposing, which is kind of gross. But he's decomposing. He's sitting in his chair decomposing, and the end of time is kind of falling apart. Um, and Miss Minutes teases that she knows a great big secret of Renslayers, and if Renslayer knew what it was, she'd be very, very upset. I hate people who do that. It's like, if you know something, say something. Otherwise, shut the hell up. I'm not going to sit here and beg for you to tell me what it is. I'm not going to try to pull it out of you. Either you going to say it or you not. Because I'm not begging like a dog. I'm not the one. I ain't the one. Her having Mobius question if he on the wrong side, wrong or right side. I don't think he was questioning whether or not he was on the wrong or right side. But I think it did make him think twice about, how he got to where he was and all the decisions he's made and where all his decisions has led him. Maybe whether that's the same thing, I don't know. The last one left. Well, the other ones are coming. The other ones are coming. We saw at the end of Quantum Manium. We saw at the end of Quantum Manium there's a whole what do you call it? Stadium full of them just waiting to come. Oh, you didn't like Jonathan Majors acting? You didn't like his stutter? I think he was doing another version of the Meek and Mild. I guess he didn't want to do the same thing as he did before with the He Who Remains. So he threw in a stutter and maybe threw in some old timey stuff, to try to play it like he was period, a period person, like someone who was born in the late 1800s, who would have that hairstyle, that Frederick Douglass hairstyle. And I don't know. I don't know. It didn't quite bother me. At times, when he was doing his presentation, it was definitely over the top during the presentation. But that's because he was putting on a show. And I felt like he was trying to dazzle the crowd. So during that part I felt was definitely over the top during his show. But um, outside of the show, it didn't feel quite as much to me. It felt like it was way lower key. So it was like I could feel the difference between him on stage and off stage. The stutter was something else. Uh, I wish he didn't have the stutter, but it wasn't, it wasn't a deal breaker for me. But but yeah, just felt like he was too extra, like he not big Kang yet. But come on. But the thing about it is he's not Kang. He's not Kang. Kang is in the quantum realm. See, what you got to understand is he is a different version. He's a different version. He was supposed to become He Who Remains. He was not supposed to become Kang. So he was always going to be that meek and mild one. He was never going to be like Kang. There's all the he's a variant. I don't know who's the original. If Kang is a variant of He Who Remains, or if He Who Remains is a variant of Kang. But one of them is a variant. They're not the same. They're completely different people. So he's never going to be Kang. He's never going to be Kang. Seen a lot of Twitter people after this saying if Majors doesn't stay as Kang, then it's going to be garbage. How you feel? Oh, you mean after in the whole universe? Well, I feel two ways about it. I personally do like Jonathan Majors as Kang and would like for him to stay Kang. I think he does well. He brings something to it. I mean, they wrote an entire phase around him because they liked what he did so much. So I think he brings a lot to the character. But at the same time, it wouldn't be the end of the world because James Rhodes. We've been through this before in the Marvel universe and the Incredible Hulk. We've been recast in the Marvel universe before and we've went on and we've survived. So if Jonathan Majors gets recast, we will survive it. It will not be the end of the world, but I just hope it doesn't come to that. But if it comes to that, it will be fine. It will be fine. It'll be okay. Yeah. So, so now what I'm hoping for is we get if they recast, we get the sort of change that becomes like a James Rhodes or an Incredible Hulk, where they fit the character so much that you don't miss the person that was the character before, that they grow into the character, they make it their own, and you don't miss the person that it was before. Unlike, let's say, those Harry Potter movies when they changed Grindelwald, and that second Grindelwald was not the business. He was not good. I didn't. He was not charismatic at all. He did not make me believe like he could get a bunch of wizards to follow him and be outright. It just I wasn't believing it. I wasn't believing it. I also didn't believe that Dumbledore was in love with him. I'm like, with him, why? So so that recast, we're hoping that it's not like that recast. We're hoping it's more like the Marvel recast we've had before. Majors as Kang than any other Marvel actor besides Hugh Jackman. Hmm, that's big. That's a bold thing to say. Hugh Jackman has been the only Wolverine um, in decades, like 20, 23, 24 years. This man has been playing the Wolverine for about 23, 24 years. I would say, I think for it feels like he's been playing he's been not Hugh Jackman. He's been playing Wolverine half my life, most of my life. So Yeah, let's just let it lay. Because if it's something the uh, about the show or about the movie, like an actual plot point, then I consider that. I consider plot points spoilers. People people consider plot points that don't happen in trailer spoilers, but I feel like the stuff they put in trailers are spoilers. So yeah, let's leave it at that. If it's about the actual plot of the movie. Um but that's a big bold thing to say. We're comparing Jonathan Majors as Kang to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He's been Kang in one movie and a couple of episodes of a TV show. That's a big thing to say. That's a big thing to say. It finds you, it searches you out, it seeks you out, and it finds you. Okay. Um, but yeah, I think we won't know until it happens. But here's something that I do know for sure: Disney is playing the waiting game. They're playing the waiting game. They're waiting to see what happens. If he is found innocent, he is Kang, and that's just it. He's going to be Kang, which means he has to be found innocent in order for him to keep his job. If he is found guilty on any charges, he's going to lose his job. So they're waiting and they're seeing, they're waiting and seeing. I keep seeing videos about, oh, they have, proof of his innocence. And I'm like, how come I'm only seeing this on one YouTuber? One YouTuber. I don't see multiple YouTubers giving me this, this evidence. Because normally I'm like, if something like this happened, like when the bad stuff happened, multiple YouTubers spread it around. Multiple YouTubers covered his story. So how come multiple YouTubers aren't covering this so-called evidence? Only one YouTuber. So I'm kind of side-eyeing this evidence, whether it's real or not. I didn't watch the video because I'm like, I don't know the source. I can't watch a video if I don't know the source. Japanese king that was like all over the place. Everybody loved it. To take that weight would be wild. If he did it, then yeah, remove him. But it's too much speculation, which makes me feel like he did even more. I don't know. I wish Megan would have kept her good name out of it. Like, why? Why did you? Why did you put yourself in a line of fire, Megan? Why, Megan? Why, Sway? But um, okay, enough with real life shenanigans. Um, so so they still there's so I was wondering if they we're still going to need to get into the, you know, the, I don't know, I already forgot what you called it. Um, what did you, the temporal loom, and fix it. And so they're bringing him back to the TVA so they can use him personally to fix it. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Seeing him, and he already has written in his book an invention that could help them fix the temporal loom without even knowing that it was broken. He has an invention ready to go. All they have to do is make it. He's not going to want to go back to 1893. So that's going to be, because because one thing that he said was he had all these ideas, but he did not have the technology to make it. So once he's put in a time where he has the technology to make all his inventions, he is not going to want to leave it. And that's going to be interesting to see how he handles being in this time with all of this technology. And in a place where a so-called variant of himself created. How is he going to handle that? Now, will he be like what he told, I keep calling this girl Sophie, Sylvie? Will he be like he told Sylvie, and make up his own mind and make his own decisions? Or will he veer into the territory that she's afraid he's going to veer into and become a little megalomaniac? I don't know. Flip of the coin. It could be either or. So, we'll see how he adjusts to the future. But that is all. Again, no, I'm holding off on upload until November because they're releasing 2 episodes at a time instead of releasing all the episodes at once. So I'm gonna wait until I can binge watch, um, upload before I get my free trial and watch all the episodes together. So that's gonna be in November. So Wednesday we'll be talking about the end of season 1 of the X Files, which is very interesting. Um, and then, of course, Friday will be another video, and then Monday we'll be back talking about Loki again. Um, Very interested to see how that works out. So, but in the meantime, thanks for watching.